Hello and welcome to the Kindergarten Science Curriculum Preview. Today we're going to briefly talk about the third 6 weeks that's coming up, Unit 4, Earth's Resources. As always, we start off with the key planning documents that we'll be referring to. So if you don't have these handy, when you get ready to plan, you'll find that these are going to be helpful. We're going to be talking and touching base on the unit overview, the pacing guide, and then talking a little bit about the clarifiers, what they have for us. Okay, so for the third 6 weeks, one of the special considerations that teachers need to keep in mind is the challenges of planning when we have 2 breaks within the 6 weeks. So here you can see a screenshot of the district calendar, and the red bar on November 14th marks the first day of the 6 weeks, and then the 6 weeks actually ends on January 13th. So if you chunk that out by month, we have 5 days and then our Thanksgiving break. Then we have 13 full days. Of course, we know there's other things happening on some of those days. And then we have a Christmas break. And then we have 8 days to wrap up the 6 weeks in January. So let's take another look at this and see how that might affect some of your pacing. So here's the unit pacing guide for this 6 weeks, and you may have to move some things around just depending on what's happening at your campus and where your students are. And so, as always, you have the option to decide where these different things might fall into place. But if we take that same information that I just went over on the previous slide, we have basically chunks of time as 5 days and then 13 days and then 8 days. So you can see how that would correlate with the 3 different chunks of the standard pacing guide that we have here. So we've got 5 days for K.1c, which is actually a process skill that we have as leading standard. And then we have bundled K.5a. We're spiraling back to that and putting that in with observing, describing, comparing, and sorting rocks. And then we end up by looking at the physical properties of natural sources of water, and then looking at ways rock, soil, and water are useful. So again, you can move these around as you need with this special logistics that we have for this 6 weeks. I did want to point out to you a document that you might find to be useful when you're planning, especially for a challenging 6 weeks such as this one. This is our Planning for Learning Protocol document for the unit. So if you're planning out for your whole unit and we have just the one this 6 weeks, you might find this document to be helpful, or you can just kind of look at that and then apply it to however you plan. But I've attached that in Canvas. It's underneath the video where you access this. You can also find that on the resources page on from the staff website. Okay, so let's take a look at Unit 4 and kind of look at the building blocks for your kindergarten students. I'd like to go over what you're going to be laying the foundation for, and then looking to see how first grade will take that a little bit further next year. These standards that we have 3 content standards this 6 weeks, partnered with many process skills. They're very similar to first grade, so I want to just compare those two and make sure that you know what your role is and then what their role will be next year. So for K.7a, you can see that I actually divided this up into 3 different parts. So here we have the verbs, here we have the content, and here we have the context. So I've done that with all 3 of the standards to help kind of chunk that a little bit. So for K.7a, your students actually do 4 different verbs. So these are 4 skills that they'll need to practice. They need to practice how to observe with their 5 senses, how to describe what they see, hear, feel, compare different things together, and then sort them. And the thing that we are observing, describing, and comparing are rocks. And specifically, we're going to be looking at rock shape, size, color, and texture. Okay. In K.7b, we have 2 verbs, observe and describe. And then we're looking this time at physical properties of natural sources of water, specifically color and clarity. And then we wrap up with K.7c, give examples of ways rock, soil, and water are useful. So you can see that we have first grade, and I've got those compared over there. So next year, your kids will be doing something very similar as K.7a, but they'll be looking at soil. So even though K.7c talks about soil and the way it's useful, you specifically will look at rocks by size, shape, color, and texture. First grade will be doing soil. And then when we talk about natural sources of water, next year students will be expected to name and identify a stream, lake, ocean, river, and so forth. So for this year, just focus on describing different types of sources of water and really helping them understand that water has different color and clarity. And next year they'll be looking at identifying them by different properties. And then finally, K.7c, you guys are looking at examples of ways that rock, soil, and water are useful. And then in first grade, they're going to be looking at what kind of products are made from those things. So just a little bit of a comparison and just clarification there. And finally, just looking at the view for kindergarten, again, these are our content standards, but we're going to overlay those with the process skills, which is conserving, recycling, and reusing, which can really be applied to all of these content standards. And then at some point, solving a problem. And so if you look at the unit overview, I have some suggestions of where you might put that in. Okay, so speaking of the unit overview, I just want to talk about a couple of things that are going to help save some time for you. This unit overview is 4 pages long, and it's set up similar to all the other unit overviews that we have. But I want to take a moment and show you a couple of updates that I've done on this unit overview that I think will help save you some time. So I'm going to go ahead and pull over the PDF version of this overview. And we always start off with just a snapshot of the outline for the 6 weeks. There's our guiding questions. Here are just a couple of overviews for approaches to classroom use. But what I really wanted to point out for you is down here towards the bottom with the resources. So for every standard that you're teaching, and this goes along with the pacing guide, the way I have that chunked together, I have some pretty detailed notes about good resources for your kindergarten students. So I've taken a lot of time to try to do some of this legwork for you. So if you notice, we have 5 days for K.1c. You might be thinking, what are we going to do for that? Well, there's some very specific lessons here that hit on that, as well as in STEM scope. So even though that's a process skill, we do have some great lessons there. I also want to just show you a couple of other updates. I've tried to put more visuals in so you can really see some of the visuals that you have as resources for these particular standards. And one note here about STEM scopes. For this particular unit, STEM scopes actually bundles K.7a, B, and C all together. So underneath the resources for each one of those standards, I've gone through and looked at the lens for each of those different standards and tried to highlight what works for that standard. So if you were looking to bundle them, you could do that, or if you wanted to teach them more independently, that would work as well. You can see I have pretty extensive notes about what would work with K.7a specifically. And of course we have our AIMS resources here at the bottom. And then you can see here's K.7b, here's the pieces with that bundled STEM scope that works for this one. So again, I give you your own time to look at that, but I just wanted to point out that that's something that I've been working on to save you some time. Okay, and just to wrap up, I just want to remind you that the vocabulary that you are to cover for these particular content standards are located on the clarifier. And just a special note, if you want to try an interactive word wall, these would be the words that you would put up there for that. And there's a just-in-time video that I've given just a quick overview and kind of a get started guide. If you're interested in interactive word walls, if you attended Dr. Jackson's session, I think you'll find that to be a nice review. If you weren't able to attend her session, I think it'll give you enough information and overview to get started. You can check that back out on the video back on Canvas, and it'll be just to the right of where you access this video. And then again, for assessments, just reminding you that STEM Scopes has its own assessment bank where you can create your own assessments with either multiple choice or open-ended assessments. Okay, and just 2 final thoughts. A big thank you to all the teachers that have been contributing to the discussion board. And back in October 11th, when we did our Soar in Science presentation, thank you for all the feedback on Padlet. That's available for everyone to go back and look at. All you have to do is go back into the October 11th pieces, and you can go back and see what great things the teachers are sharing out. I also want to thank you for contributing to the discussion boards. When we have our curriculum previews, we'll always have a discussion or some sort of question, and this is really a great time for you guys to learn from each other, as well as ask me questions and get real-time answers. I check those daily, and if you have a question about something, chances are someone else does too, so each one of us can help others learn. And then finally, just a reminder that we do have a new face-to-face opportunity every 6 weeks, some time with your coordinator or colleagues. It's called C3, and you can find the dates for those in workshop, and we also send out an email blast, and that'll be coming up soon. Thanks for joining me, and have a great 6 weeks. Please let me know how I can help support your instruction.